start recording.
Yeah, I've started. Is it asking you?
No.
No?
Now.
Oh.
Yes.
Has it asked you that it's recording?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
right.
It says
Wonderful.
recording has started.
Yeah, in case if I need to take some reference later. You are breaking up
just
sometimes,
say
Christian.
she can't join us. I didn't know she was invited in this, but
No, she in the morning she said, I like to contribute something. So she invited herself.
Okay. Good.
Right. I think let's blow our minds. Whatever comes into your mind, just throw it off. So let's pick those things. What you think? Actually, I have started this as a framework, like A, B, C kind of framework. I'm just putting together, but it keeps expanding and expanding because when you when you try this ABC, somebody must have copied my idea somewhere and put this together. Very, very, very. I think some of my articles are very well represented here. Very much the same words are used in the A space and B space. I could see that, but I think I don't know. Maybe it may be the same revelation.
Notes which you just sent. Sorry. I'm sorry. Your internet is interrupted, so sometimes it's like there are periods of quiet. Sorry about that.
Are you able to hear me now?
I don't know, Germa. How is it on your side? Oh, you're muted. Okay, but you said it's okay.
I think your internet is going off, Christian. So
yeah, I can hear Joshua very well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then let me see which server I'm on. Yeah, I'm on the right server. Okay, I'll switch to another server if it continues like that. Carry on. Sorry about that.
So let's throw ideas. Let's not be biased with anything. Let's see what is the conceptual areas. I think, can we take kind of three? One is first let us see what is the ideas and what is the methodology, what is the kind of tools that we think, and what do we want to achieve at the end of the day. Not only in the conference or in the consultation, but even afterwards. And I think these are the kind of different things, highlights I like to ask. Go ahead.
Should I start sharing what I have been working on?
Go ahead.
Okay. I have a short Word document. Let me try to share if it works. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, well, when it comes to rational, I have been thinking in two parts on this. One is the rational part, the other one was the approach part. On the rational part, I thought two elements are important. One is the Bible itself, or the Bible engagement as a concept, but then the cultural context. That's why I brought Bible engagement in secularist context or culture, whichever you want to go, because attached or detached from the cultural context, what we are going to do is not going to make a lot of sense. So I thought that it was good to work with both contexts, with both elements. So with the advancement of rationalism, science, and technology in the West, the Bible has long been pushed to the four walls of the church. Not only that, historic contribution of the Bible to the Western values, such as work ethic, social welfare, and sense of individual accountability to God, has been forgotten, but also its language and way of life its contribution to those areas are being underappreciated. It has also lost its place in public conversation and pushed to the margins of public conversation in Europe or widely in the West. So as a Bible Mission organization, we have a mandate to find a creative and inspiring way to help people to rediscover the relevance of the Bible to private life, private and public life. So Bible engagement is a vision that aims to bring Bible back to life. This conference is a means to raise Bible engagement champions, I mean, globally, who are skilled in interpretation of the Bible, but also interpretation of their cultural context. So that is kind of a conceptual framework that I was thinking. Then when it comes to the methodology, I thought I have been already biased in terms of thinking from a kind of space mentality that we have been working at the Bible Society, but then I thought if we bring that space thinking, then it would obscure our conversation because it comes out as jargon. So I instead wanted to bring the biblical language into those space places. For example, space one, I said iron sharpens iron, and then we use that scripture as kind of leading idea to start our conversation, where this session would help us to brainstorm, define, analyze, and assess the existing practices of Bible engagement. Furthermore, this session will be dedicated to understanding internal gaps, external cultural challenges. In the spirit of sharpening one another, we sit together to make a good use of wisdom of encouraging, questioning, inspiring, and challenging our conceptions or lack of it for Bible engagement in our context. So that is for me the a space of understanding where we are. When it comes to where we would like to go, I subscribe to Ephesians 3:13, Paul's language of straining forward or stretching forward. This session would help us to go into mutual exploration of where we aim to go and dream about the destination where Bible engagement would take us within our cultural context. And the third part is kind of really looking for resources and means to go to the so-called B space. And the leading scripture here is the stewardship of God's varied grace. Here I'm assuming the Bible societies that are coming together would have their own speciality, their own unique resources, and then it's about stewarding those resources in a direction that highlights the Bible and Bible engagement. So this session would help us to analyze and understand resources that are needed to reach to our destination. This includes closely looking into our funds, for example, specialities, capacities, talent at our disposal to enable us to achieve Bible engagement goals that are set out. So that is kind of the framework from which I have been working on. So it's very much starting. So I'm open for any critique, change, and any kind of take whatever is useful for that and throw away whatever is not useful.
I think that is good enough. I think you have highlighted much of this in a Western context, but it is very good. I think some of these ideas, certainly, I think most of it will go in terms of a little bit here and there, a bit of light touch. Otherwise, this would be very good. The thing is that they don't have a day 3, so it's only day 2 days.
Yeah, I understood that. But then in terms of space, we have got that 3 or 4 spaces, and that is I'm open for that change. So that's not a problem.
Yeah, I think this is much more focused than what they think they want to achieve. But I think it's good. It's good because I think that's good. I think for me it's good. I think we'll take if you add more, if please send me. We can suddenly put together these things. That's not, I think I have not started thinking of day 1, day 2, but you have gone well ahead. I think that's very helpful in terms of thinking. The third point, can you elaborate a little bit more? Resources, what?
Yes, yeah.
Funds and okay.
Yeah, the part 1 is assessment of where we are. And it is understanding of the works that we have been doing as Bible societies, and also the gaps, the internal gaps in Bible engagement we have, and then also the external pressure from, let's say, secularist culture on our methods of Bible engagement, or the challenge of Bible engagement in each culture. It's about exploration, but brainstorming, sharpening each other, awakening each other kind of session. And the second session is setting a goal, and where are we aiming to go? And the third session is, okay, we would like to go somewhere, but what resource do we have that enables us to reach that goal? So that is how I was thinking.
Right. Christian, you want to say any comments?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Germa. I very much appreciate the way, the direction you're taking with this proposal, because it very much resonates with some of my thinking, which is also illustrated by the conceptual paper that Joshua, you started working on, and that is, if we bring the A, B, C space too much into focus of these meetings, it will feel very much like a structure that we're trying to place in the conversation, something very technical, already very well thought out. And I like what Germa is doing here. Germa is taking a step back. And if you look at the way I was, while Germa was presenting, I was thinking of day 1 and 3 as being really space A, B, and C, because A is looking back, so to say, where we've been or where we are. You can say past and present. And day 2 is looking at space B, where do we want to get as a fellowship, and space 3 is what do we need in order to achieve there. Right, Germa? Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
And what I like is the fact that you said this is too structured. In fact, I think it's very generous. What Germa is offering here is something very generous. For example, one of the comments you made in your conceptual paper, which I highlighted, is under point 2. You said, by emphasizing the importance of understanding and engaging with the audience, BFBS wishes to nourish the collaborative conversations by shifting the focus from content, means, and methods to people, their context, their interests, and their faiths. Now, to me and you, inside in BFBS, this sounds okay. This is the language we talk. But if you expose another Bible society with this approach, first of all, they will think, are you saying that everything we've been doing in terms of Bible engagement has been just, you could characterize it as a content, means, and method focus? And have we not really focused on people, their interest, their faith? It's if you know what I mean, it's quite a harsh criticism to come and say, well, you know, you're all in space A, here is BFBS taking you to space B. And I'm not saying we're doing that. I think you highlighted in your paper, Joshua, the spirit of friendship that we're trying to grow in this. But I think that has to also be reflected in our approach. And this is what I like about Germa's approach. And I wanted to suggest a move also from the space A, B, and C in the way we can do the same kind of methodologically. At the back of our mind, we can keep in mind A, B, and C, but we need to somehow translate that into a language that's more generous, that's more accepting of what Germa suggested, which is the fact that those Bible societies have their own, at their disposal, their own specialities, capabilities, experience, projects, ways of doing things, and we need to be generous and allow them to share and to see how we can sharpen those. But you can't do that if you come and say, well, this is all bad. Here is the B space. This is the future where we want to take you. It has to be designed in a language which, yeah, Gamma went the biblical language, which is excellent. I think it's generous enough. It leaves enough space for people to read into it their own experience, rather than if you make it too explicit, then people will not resonate with it. They will say, yeah, but this is not my experience. You know, your experience in UK may be of A space the way you see it, but in Netherlands, it's not. In Netherlands, we've been doing Bible engagement for a long time. You know, they could come back to you and say that. So rather than do that, let's avoid this becoming a competition, this becoming a comparative analysis. That's kind of my initial reaction. I don't know if Germa, I put a lot of words into Germa's mouth. I don't know.
No, I think you perfectly captured it. The aim of bringing the biblical verse there is, I think, two. One is it creates that generous place because we can't claim that biblical word is to us. It is something common that is given to us, and everybody of us are aware of it. So it creates that common space. If we bring our own terminology there, then it creates unnecessary kind of tension and misunderstanding. And another reason is it brings this prayerfulness and reflective attitude towards the meeting. In fact, even we can kick off that conversation by exploring that particular verse with prayer, and then we will start. That brings different kind of mindset and different kind of ethos. So those are the two reasons that I wanted to move away from using our specialist language of AB space to come to a kind of common language or biblical language. But then, as Christian rightly said, we always assume those spaces because it is a good framework for us to move and to keep us in the structure.
Yeah, I think what the point made is good. The only issue is, one of the things for me, the problem is we have this global context versus Western context. That is where the confusion also is there. So if you think the secular context is everywhere, that is also an assumption that we need to be a little careful of, because in some contexts it is a different approach. That is where the A and B and space in the global context put it completely a different language if you look at it. And that's one of the things I was trying to put it in my write-up, saying that, it's mostly in the West, is also possible in the rest, but still this is a problem. So in a sense, in some context, it is more religious rote, how to handle it, how to make people Bible literate, rather than simply Christian fundamentalists, or even in some context being a minority, how we face these Islamic threats and the religious freedom and the kind of things are taken. So some of these things are a different global. So I thought this is good enough for the East European or European kind of gathering. But when it comes to the rest, we may have to tweak it in a way that's a little bit more global. That's one issue I face. But having said that, the kind of method that you put for day 1 and day 2, or say program, or step 1, step 2, step 3, would be easier. And it could remain the same, because there you are not bringing secularization too much into it. It's more methodological approach. Yeah. So in that sense, it can go in as it is. So this is one of the language I think I would also like as a Bible language. But I think to respond to Christian point, if you look at it, of course, my writing, of course, I come as an academician. I have to be clear in what I'm saying. I can't go around it. So that is why I sometimes clarify. But then if you go down, you have not read the things down. When you read it a bit down, I said clearly there, I think, let me read it for you. Though such an emphasis on audience is not completely new, you see, yet with the global research, BFBS is willing to provide support, the collaborative and changing conversation through a global audience. So at the end of the day, what happens is here, your point is very true, saying that we should not be like seen as a driving force or the people who can say, okay, we have all got into trouble. Now we have found something new. Can we all take this or leave this? It's not, I think that attitude is still there, whether we want to get it out or not. But at the same time, I think this concept helps. But I think this day 1, day 2, day 3, I think I'm very clear with the Germas thing. But with the rational, we need to think a bit more into a little bit of, because your language expresses much of the Western space. So that's why I was saying.
In that regard, I think I thought I was given to conceptualize the conference in England. So I was not asked to provide rationale for a global conference. That is where if I have to think global, then I would have provided a different kind of nuance. But when it comes to tweaking, this should not be that difficult, depending where we would like to go. That should not be a big issue.
I would like to, highlight that as well. I think my understanding from what Aldi was suggesting yesterday in a meeting was that because actually Germa raised a question about this very point. He said you can't have the same approach in these different regions. And then Aldi said, okay, for the first meeting, you need to think of the content specifically, having the sake context in mind. So that's Joshua why we're talking about this. If it was for the Middle Eastern or African context, we would have to think of it, conceptualize it differently. But that's why it sounds very much using the language that will resonate, I think, with the Western context. Yeah. Now that's on your first point, and on the second point that you raised, I think, I don't know if I made myself clear when I said that I'm not critiquing the language you use here in the document, and I see what you read further. What I'm saying is that this is a language we all agree with in BFBS. It's a question of translation. It's a question of how do we present this content to our colleagues, our equals. Actually, I would say very much we have something to offer to SHIP. I believe the work we've been doing with the A, B, and C space is very much something we want to share with the fellowship. Let's not be coy about it. Let's not be humble about it. It is something brilliant, something excellent, which is why ABS wants to be on board, which is why everyone thinks it's a project worth developing. It's just my question was on how we do it. How do we communicate the language, the technicality of it? Even so, I mean, if I look at your document, I mean, you're right. I mean, we all have a handicap, which is our academic language. We all suffer from this handicap. My biggest struggle is trying to translate myself into a language that the colleagues, the Bible societies that Germa and I have worked with all these years, we know them intimately. We know their level of engagement. They are sharp, but they engaged in very clear terms, in very biblical terms as well, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to convert this thinking that BFBS has developed into something that will really be constructive and helpful. And as I said, and I'm going to use the word again, which is in a way that is welcoming, in a way that's inviting to conversation. So it's not a criticism. I think you're doing great, but looking at your paper, like you said, it's already growing. It's 1,000 words. The risk is it develops more and more and more. The question is, I thought our challenge was to come up with a one A4, 1 page, which kind of gives a methodological or rationale structure to the 2 days. For example, I would change the day 1 and day 2 and 3 to maybe part 3. And you can do part 1, you can do it on the first day and start.
Can you repeat?
Sorry.
You have gone off.
I mean,
Can you repeat?
My server. Yes. So I would change day 1 to part 1, part 2, and part 3. And I would spend day 1 on part 1 and start on part 2 in the afternoon. And then day 2, continue with part 2 as a reminder of what was discussed the previous day. And then use the afternoon of day 2 to focus on part 3, which is, what resources we need. How can we go about doing Bible engagement in our context? How can we help one another? This is how I would do it. So 3 parts in 2 days. And part 2 is good because it opens a conversation, and it gives time people to rest, conversations at the meals in the evening. And then the second day they can come back with more thinking that they've had, and then use the second part of day 2 to go on to part 3, which is kind of the more, let's say, operational in character, the more kind of pragmatic, if you want. Just a suggestion.
Yep, I think that is good. I am also thinking this, is something interesting. The iron sharpens iron is a very interesting metaphor for me. Is there anything similar in the New Testament or something similar? It is because it is very interesting, because in my context, where I come from, a warrior caste, we always, in every home, we hang a sharp, long sword. And we always say this as a preparation for war. You don't sharpen your iron, sharpen your brain, And so that brings me a very warrior kind of image for me. So I'm just thinking, it is quite good though, but
But that is a very odd hermeneutic then.
It is interesting. It is interesting because to me, iron sharpens iron. I think culturally people use it to say that someone who has quite something to offer, someone who has power, someone who has capability, meets someone else on equal terms.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not, it's not, someone that, how would you say, it's not putting someone on a more inferior and the other person on a more superior. It's coming to equal terms. Like it. Why? Because that's exactly the point I was trying to drive earlier, which is we come to these colleagues of ours not coming with, wow, here is the mother of Bible Societies, BFPS, but recognizing that they have something. They are iron, they are strong, they have something to offer, and we also have something to offer. So let's meet and see how 2 hearts can bring something even sharper, something even better. I very much like this, and I know why Germa used it there. I think it's good, but it's interesting cultural translation of that in India.
This one, Germa, do you want to add something else, or just do you want to keep this one as such?
I think, well, I will add, I think for me, the earliest part can be tweaked depending on where we will be going. If it is Middle East, then we can have a slightly different kind of nuance of that rationale. To Africa, to Asia, then we can tweak that. I can work on different global clusters when it comes to the rationale, but the latest part for me is what I can offer, actually.
Yeah, I think Yeah, for me, I think the ideas are nearly captured. Let's give it a kind of, I thought to Oldie also. He will be kind of interesting comments he will have. And I think the attraction is basically the biblical verses. That is clear for me. I think that tells it off. The only, for me, still, I may think that collaboration is clear, mutual exploration where we aim to go. I think there is a possible conversation that can also enrich each other and change. It's sometimes we should not be too politically correct, saying that we can't change. There's nothing to learn from each other, or there is somebody who can, also has something to give. So we should not be very much afraid, because if somebody's hand is higher and good in experience, we should give them enough space if somebody challenges something that we should not give, we should give enough space. And if somebody has an enthusiasm to challenge somebody, we must also give space. So in a sense of equality and relationship, we should not submerge challenging each other, because then we are hiding something. This is the same problem with the Church of England.
No.
You see, that is my problem. Because even you always hide the important things that you can't say, you can't come to a consensus or anything. You always end up fighting. So you hide it in the name of relationship. So that's something I would like to see. Mutuality should be there, but mutuality does not mean there's a need for the changing in conversation somewhere.
Yeah, but challenging is there on the part one. If you say in the spirit of sharpening one another, we sit together to make good use of wisdom, of encouraging, questioning, sharpening one another, and we inspiring and challenge our conception. So the challenge is already there. We challenge what is there, but the challenge also what is not there. Why? We ask that question. I think that element is already assumed and clearly stated.
Okay, I think we will give it a go, and let's see how that comes back. And because I would also try to write down my essay. It keeps going because it is because the problem here, I feel that it is interesting one side that for me, I felt this one. Suddenly I was told that they don't need it. And so I just thought, okay, we don't need, guys, do not need to worry. But suddenly I now have to have the whole thing in a week time. But then if you give something, then you get feedback saying that, oh, this is and the quality and all those things. Then I think I have a backup of bigger paper. So guys, you select from whatever you wanted. We have a big paper here. If you want to select and put together whatever you want to put it together, that's what I can give it, because that is the problem. Suddenly you can go too spiritual. That can be seen as not quality centered. You can go the quality centered, then you can be seen as if, oh, you are a big boss now. You write as if you know everything. So you have this tension there.
Joshua, just a suggestion, but why not combine the two? Why not use the content that you've developed to put under each part 1, 20? Think of the structure that Gama suggested as, let's say, the exterior clothing for the 2 days of meeting, and then you can insert the content that you've developed under each of those. And also maybe not have to insert it, but have it ready in case there are questions like, what exactly do we want to discuss? Or the first session in each part will be an introductory session. Either you or Oldie or Paul is going to have to share what you've just written in this document, in the conceptual paper. So that content is important to be there.
No, I think that is, let's leave this as it is. I think this is looking very good for a European country, even though I still miss something that is one thing is, even though I see the secularism is there, you use the word on the title, but you're not expanded anything in the thing. But then they have already, you have captured most of it in a summary from that A space of the West local. That's very good for me. And the only thinking I would think is in the rational is somewhere the problem of, again, it will be expanding and expanding, the globalization and also the kind of diverse pluralization. That is something that's a reality, but that is, I think we can leave it as it is. I think we can highlight this as it is. Let's give to, if I add, you see, my problem was I was putting my mind into Paul's and all this, the ABC. So, you know, for me, I was trying to expand it in a way that would come up. But then I was also highlighting three things. One is the deepening the deepening the conversation in order that we provide the confidence in the Bible.
Yes.
And the second one is changing the conversation.
Yeah.
And the third one is transformative nature of the Bible.
Yeah.
These three areas that I want to push it in. But then the problem here, again, I'm still struggling, because whether in a global north context, whether the point also Oldie makes is, which is quite interesting, because he wanted that these guys in the West to partner with us and fund what we are going to do for the global South.
Yes.
If that is the point that comes to that, then some of these would become challenging, because this is aimed at how do we look at our own context, how do we engage on our own context. So these are the complexities that goes into my mind. So let us leave this as it is, and let's go for this. And Christian, if you are working on this a bit more, your English editing and all these skills, apply it. And if you think you can add something, you can add. If I think I can add something, we can add a little bit of tweaking and then go for this one. And if Oldie comes up, okay, this is fine, let's go for it. If we expect more, then we can produce more. I say, we have an extended paper. If you want to see it, you can see that as well.
Yeah.
And then he can work on both the papers and put together himself.
Can I say, I think what you just highlighted, I think it is a valid concern. I think it was raised yesterday. Some of the Bible societies that you have on the list do not do any engagement work in their country. They left that work for the church. They are working in a very much the same way BFBS used to work, which is they are a funding agency. They raise funds in Norway, they raise funds in Sweden, they raise funds in Netherlands, and they send all those abroad. In terms of their, of course, Netherlands has done historically, they used to do a lot of very relevant Bible engagement, even Bible advocacy work, they would call it. But then at one point, they just made this decision as an organization. I spoke with von Duyven, whatever his name is, the general secretary, the current, and they said, look, at one point we decided we are not going to focus anymore on the Netherlands context when it comes to other. So they will come to this meeting, and everything we present here, they will think, well, this is not for my context. This is for the work we're doing abroad. And so that's why I think this approach is general enough to allow for that, for people to say, well, our understanding in our country of Bible engagement doesn't really have in mind our context, but has in mind the context of our partners we're working with. And I think this is generous enough to allow for that variation.
Okay.
I think the problem that we have as AVAC is we are, if that is the case, what you have described is the aim, then we are being given an impossible job. Because I have to assume a person, an institution that I have no knowledge of. How could you do that? And I think it is up to them. Our task is providing them with the raw material. And then it is up to them to relativize that to whatever need that they think is out there, and I have never met a general secretary from Norway or Netherlands or Germany or anything like that, because that is not my sphere, because that is Aldis' sphere or Paul's sphere. And so if I have to talk of the African general secretaries, then I might have some insight on that, and I don't know, I might have some knowledge of how they operate. But here, it is not my place. Let's provide what we can provide, let's say that raw materials as the best as we can, and then open up that. I don't think they would expect a perfect document from us, and they would be aware of that limitation we have on the import and expose this, and then they might tweak it in whichever way is convenient to the goal that they are envisaging, and that is how I think.
Okay, good. I think we'll go for it, and I
Can
think
you
we'll
share
go
the
as a team
document
for
with
this.
us?
I think that's good
John?
enough for me to go for this as our document, and let's see how that works. I think is that okay, Christian? Would you like to work on this a bit further, or just want to?
I can add a few things if Goma will share with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share. It is
Yeah.
already on the shared space, or whatever is the IBAC space within Abli document and super duper document. But I can send as an email.
Yeah, if we can, we'll also add one or two sentences if you need it, and then we can agree on our second meeting, and then we'll forward it to Woli.
Excellent. Good stuff. Thank you both.
If needed, I don't think Woli will be asking more than this. If they ask more than this, we do not know exactly what is in their mind.
You never know. You never know.
But also, I think he should not say. I think sometimes it's important to get the minutes of a meeting, because you can say that I asked for a global context, you gave us a Western context. That can be kind of thing. I don't think Wally would say it, but I think it is in the business of life. People can.
You have a recording as a proof.
Self-incriminating.
Yes.
No. I am actually for very transparent, because I worked with the people who often forget in my previous jobs. So who forget and come back asking completely contradictory things. So so it's always, I get this in a minute form. It's that I always refer to. So because I have been in number of time troubles, because I just had a talk with the university, and then the people came and asked, why did you go for the university without our permission? Then I went back to the minute, said that you have mentioned me calling this university and talking, so refer to that minute, and that helps a bit. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
So that's why I always keep. But I think I'm not saying Oldie or Paul is doing it, but I'm saying in case if that happens to be, then I think we needed in future the minutes. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Garma, for this wonderful work. And I think you guys have been in this for a long time to know what is to be there. And I certainly recognize that. And I think let's go with that, and let's see whether it works. Okay, good. So we are meeting tomorrow. Let's meet tomorrow for our wider discussions on what is going on and how that goes on. Because I'm meeting Oldie tomorrow morning about what's the next step for IBAC. So I'm hoping that we'll get an appointment with Paul. And I think, yeah. And I think with Oldie's presence and myself, we should make a good case, because Oldie has suggested 3 things. And I think one of those areas which we need to discuss further is the question about, if we say pathways of Bible and culture, pathways of Bible and leadership, pathways of Bible and public life. And I think pathways of Bible and culture, Christian would lead. Pathways of Bible and leadership, Germa would lead, as from your experience. But the public, Bible and public life would be part of the leadership's thing, I think. But then we have to say these are not completely distinct. The question that came from Africa, so it's not distinct. But then how we have also made sure, we have made already sure in our writing that these have been overlapping on each, and people who are leaders can use this Bible and culture course in their own context, so that that can be. So these are some of the discussions that we need to do it tomorrow. Let's keep it tomorrow, and bring your ideas about the kind of recent document that I sent to you, and let's develop that further. I am very happy that we have developed some outline and curricula, which is good enough. But now with the curricula, we need to develop a particular course and a particular session, how that will look like. And then by that time, we would have done the LMS, and we'll start learning how to upload on the LMS, at least testing ourselves to learn how do we do by ourselves. It's not that we are going to do the whole thing, and we have to learn it. Once we learn that skill, and we also engage in kind of teaching ourselves in a small group or in a network of group in Kenya or somewhere, then once we have learned the skills, then there will be extra support that need to be trained and do it at a different context. That is the idea that we need to take it further. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. Okay? Fine.
Okay.
Okay, see you. Thank you very much. And we hope to receive this document, Garma, soon. Thank you.